Welcome to Let's Talk Learning Disabilities with Laurie Peterson. Laurie spends her days talking about dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, and ADHD. She talks to students and adults who have had a lifetime of academic challenges. She's here to share their stories along with other insights with you. So let's talk learning disabilities.
Hey everybody, this is Laurie. Welcome to Let's Talk Learning Disabilities. So today we are going to talk a little bit about that transition from high school to college, but not just for any student, for your neurodivergent student, your student that probably has maybe some ADHD or some learning differences. This is a hot topic in our house right now. My stepdaughter, who you met in one of our episodes, Emily, is preparing for college with her neurodivergence, and it's been interesting. It's been fun. It's been a challenge. Now I see what I put my parents through. God love them. But anyway, so we have an old friend with us today, Cindy Palmer from Threshold Coaching. She was actually back on episode 99 where we talked about dyscalculia and we talked a little bit about college ADHD coaching. But today she is going to share her top 10 tips for the transition to college. Hello, Cindy.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
This is a great time to do this because we are like in it right now, right? Like we are making those decisions. We've picked our school. Now we're going through all those next steps. All those executive function skills are just firing because we have got to prepare and plan for this transition. So this to me is like perfect timing for this conversation.
Yeah, agreed. They're literally signing on the line as we speak, probably.
They are. We're paying deposits.
Yes, you are. Doing the thing. Yes.
Doing the thing. So first, remind everybody a little bit about you and what you do.
Sure, yeah. So I live in Bellingham, Washington, and we are working with college students in person throughout Washington State, and then online we're all over the place, everywhere from New York to Texas to Florida to California. And so we're providing one-to-one coaching for folks and also group settings. So in essence, we're trying to come around the students who are making that transition to college to make it a little bit less of a leap, because it's a really, really big leap into a whole lot of freedom and therefore a whole lot of time management and a whole lot less accountability. And a lot of things they want to say yes to, maybe even more so than the high school setting, that are social and club. I mean, all the things. It's so fun and sparkly. So trying to figure out how to have an academic life amidst the sparkle is the challenge that we work with.
That is a challenge.
Indeed.
It's a challenge. Sometimes you have to like refocus. The whole point of this process is for the academics, right?
Yeah.
Because the other stuff is I love the way you say that. It is very sparkly.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you have 10 tips that you like to share that are your top 10. You probably have way more than that, but let's see if we can get through all 10.
Okay, let's do it. All right. So these are 10 tips that we've sort of gathered in the trenches of working with students, learning the hard way. If this isn't taken care of in their preparation to get to school, then we have a lot of work to do as coaches. And so this is us trying to provide parents with opportunities and things to think about before September 1, right? When they land at wherever they're going to land for their next 4 years or 6 years or 8 years or however many years it's going to take, because let's take the stigma out of more than 4. Right. So, okay. So, and these, I will say a couple prefaces. They aren't like all 10 won't be things that are applicable to all humans that are neurodivergent entering the college world. So pick and choose, right? And also they're not in order. So number 1 is not number 1. It's just 1 of 10. So, although number 1's pretty good, I will say. All right. So we'll start with number 1. Number 1, self-advocacy. Right. And so we see students come in with absolutely no skill set at talking about a few different aspects of their humanhood. One, they've forgotten their strengths. So not just do they know what they need help with, but do they remember, and parents, are you reminding them when you see them do these things, that they have some really fantastic skill sets to hold on to? Because those strengths will help them deal with their, quote, weaknesses, right? Or the things that are harder for them. And so along with the what are you good at, of course, what do you need help with? And can the student actually describe, if they were going to give an elevator pitch to somebody about how ADHD has impacted them, could they do it? Could they talk about what is hard for them, their top 3 hards? These are the top 3 things. I mean, this would be a real simple way to get that conversation. What are your top 3 things? So they can state that in a way that advocacy, compassion, empathy, all the things that they'll need to have when they meet with that other person they're able to be met with that because they are articulate about their strengths and their needs. So that's number
I think
one.
that's so important too, because it's not just the things that your parents necessarily nag you about, right? Like I'm bad at cleaning up my room, right?
Yeah.
You really have to have a lot of self-awareness to be able to talk about the things that you need help with and why you need help with them. And I think a lot of kids would have trouble coming up with the top 3 things.
I think so too. It's also a really vulnerable place to stand. I mean, for anyone, for adults, what are the top 3 things that are hard for us in a particular context that is, new to us, where we feel like people are judging us, where we feel like we're lesser than from the very beginning, right? So I think getting vocabulary around that and trying to take the shame out of it by holding both hands. One is the strengths and one is the I need tos. I need to be better at these things. I need support through these things, right? So
I like that.
Yeah. Okay. So that's number 1, self-advocacy, knowing the good and the hard for your student leaving. Okay. Number 2, actively participate in settings. This goes along with number 1, where you discuss your strengths and challenges. And those settings are places like this, IEP 504 meetings. Is the student, by the time they're a senior, they should be on stage. They should be leading. They should be talking. They should have more words coming out of their mouth, definitely, than the parent at that point, right? So that is a transition. And for those of you who have children who are young, right, scaffold the experience to where that's your end goal, right? So doctors and therapists, can they talk about their needs, what they're good at, what they need to them? Teachers, of course, that's an easy grab. And then if you go to tour campuses, which I'm right in the middle of, getting ready to do it with my youngest, and are they able to ask a question or 2 to the campus disability staff when you go to visit that office? Because, oh my goodness, please do. So that they can see they're really nice humans and that they're really helpful, right? It could be the same 2 questions they ask everybody. As a matter of fact, I would come up with the same 2 questions that they want to ask, right? And so they don't have to rethink it. They're just asking everybody the same thing. So they're comparing apples to apples. So that's the other one. Actively participate in settings where you can discuss your strengths and your challenges. All right. Number 3. Try out accommodations in high school and to see what works best for you. And I already know that I'm saying a really hard thing to some students because let's say you need extended time on tests. Well, the entire classroom leaves, and what do? It's a very standout social moment, right? Like you're not leaving the room or you have to go to the counseling office to finish it. It's a social dilemma. It is the ultimate, I don't want to stand out for my learning difference moment. So I think using some of these accommodations, trying to figure out socially acceptable ways for the student to where they don't feel outed or noticed in a way that would be detrimental to them.
Don't you feel like that would be a great question to ask the disability services too, is how do these accommodations get, provided? Like, do I take my test in the room if I get extra time, or do I get to go somewhere else and take it? Like, that may be a great question to ask them. I give them some of the peace of mind of the kinds of things they want to ask for. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah. And especially if they know they need extra time on tests, and that's a really big deal. You get high stake tests in college, right? You're going to have 4 tests. Boom. That's your grade for the entire quarter. So it's a big deal. And it's so for them to kind of be able to ask, yes, that kind of detailed question is a really good one, actually, especially if they know that's one of their accommodations that's been really helpful for them in a high school setting, to specifically ask how that particular accommodation is going to work in the college that they're touring and looking at, for sure. Yeah. Because they're different everywhere. Very different. Yes, for sure. Okay. And then maybe trying out something like recording classes, like getting an audio version of the classes, maybe using something like Glean to do that, which is an audio recording that has all kinds of powerful things to get it from audio to text and organized within the text. So, or do they need a quiet testing environment? These are just three of, like, literally I've heard anything from a list of 80 to 150 accommodations that people could have in the college setting. So trying the ones out that you think you might need in high school to see if they're helpful, so you know how to ask for that need when you get there. Yeah. All right, that's number 3. Number 4, this is a really big one, and people tend to not think about this one until they don't realize the difficulty that's about to unfold when you get to the college setting, and that is meds. So if I had to have a number 1 and your student is on meds for ADHD and they are helpful, I would move this one straight up to the top of the list, because likely your student is seeing a pediatrician. Well, they're not 18 for very much longer when they go to the college setting. Some pediatricians will follow them. Some will say, sorry, you're 18, and it's a very firm, you're out. And so transitioning to an adult doctor before someone makes you do that, at least asking your pediatrician how long they're willing to stick with you in this college process. Huge. Start practicing managing the process to get your meds. So parents, if you are the ones in charge of the med getting process, oh my goodness, get that out of your hands. Like, start educating your student on how that happens. So does the college-bound student, do they know the dosage? Do they know the purpose of all their meds and the side effects? Yes.
And if they're going out of state, there's a good chance that their psychiatrist cannot prescribe out of state, because that's us right now. We've got a kiddo in Colorado, we're in Texas. So every time he's home, he meets with his doctor. She gives him 3 months. But you got to work all that out before you leave, because you're going to run out of meds if not, because they cannot prescribe over, some can, but the majority of them can't prescribe outside of their states. If you're going out of state, that's another little piece to add to your puzzle.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And so then the other piece of, like, you're right with the 3-month piece, those of you who deal with ADHD meds know that you have to have a doctor visit every 3 months. And so asking your current doctor, is that going to be possible from afar? Because psychiatrists, there's some limitations around them, but is there I get all kinds of different answers from all kinds of doctors as to whether or not they can do this over the state lines. And I'm not going to speak to it because it feels like there's some nuanced instances where it's okay and where it's not, but it's an issue.
100%.
That's all I want to say. Figure it out ahead of time.
You got to find out. Yeah, you got to find out.
Yeah, ask the questions of the current doctor and see what's going to be there in that for future when they're off school. So the other pieces of them managing the process are, can they, before they go, maybe in that last renewal, could you while they're under your roof, could you release the reins, figure out how to get them to put a reminder on their calendar to make the appointment with the doctor for the 3-month checkup? And then could you maybe not remind them? I don't know. That's real risky, is it not? It's about to happen. They're going to go to college. So can you figure out some in-between scaffolding? Sure, maybe you can check, but can they be the one that follows through? Can they make the phone calls? Can they get the online portals? Like, can they get into it? Do they know their password? Do they know about insurance, right? So this is a very overwhelming, complicated spot. And it's the one spot that I do tell all of our parents, especially with insurance, to stay involved. So I'm not asking for a complete turnover in this. This is one realm where I would say, don't do that. Insurance is so complicated. State lines are so complicated. So stay involved, but figure out ways to foster independence in them with this. Can they call the doctor or the pharmacy? I had a student come to me with 10 days before finals, so that real stressful spot of getting ready, and he's out of meds, and he hasn't slept for almost 3 days. And he comes in distraught because the meds, of course, are in short supply, some of them. And so what happens when pharmacy A is out of Adderall? Do they know that they can contact pharmacy B? Do they know how to get the doctor to then push that prescription to the next pharmacy? No, they do not. So either parents, you have to be ready to step into that or teach them how, right?
Yeah.
And so it's caused disaster after disaster with kids running out of meds at a really important moment in time. So yes, not to be scary on that one, but I'd like to scare you just a little bit, just so you think about it in advance, not after.
100%.
Then it'll be okay. All right. Number 5, consider counseling needs. So this is in light of meds too. State lines and counselors. There are counselors that are certified across state lines, but is yours? And if not, I mean, I would almost, if you're still in the midst of college choice and your sweet thing has been with a therapist for, multiple years and they really like them, they've got a solid working relationship, it's a sweet spot for them. But that counselor doesn't work in Colorado and you're in Texas, right? What if they like a school in Texas almost as much as the one in Colorado? It actually should be a consideration on your pro and con list that my therapist lives here. And maybe that school in Texas might have a little bit more hashtags on the side of the pro side, right? So it's worth considering at that level, even in the college choice decision, if there's a very solid years-long collaborative relationship with the therapist in place. Life transitions are a big risk factor, and this is one of the biggest. And so I think getting support set up in advance. When my eldest went off to Boston, which is the other side of the country from me, I did a little bit of digging ahead of time to get some waitlist stuff set up. So they have wait lists of like 6 months. So what if you sign the line, you send the check for the school your child's going to, and then you and student get on Psychology Today, do some research, and go therapist shopping and get on wait lists right now? Why not do that?
Right now.
Because if you come to the top before they're headed to school and it's irrelevant, you can say, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Will you just put me right back under a few folks because I don't need it now, but I'd love to raise to the top of your wait list again. So stay on it so that you cycle back up to the top
That's
again.
genius. How hard is it to get counseling services through the schools? Like I know they have counseling services, but really quick, can you speak to that? Because I know a lot of parents maybe rely on that.
Mm-hmm. So I would say they can be good, they can be amazing, and they can be real bad. And meaning very limited. A lot of schools, you'll hear things like some schools will say they have unlimited counseling. Unlimited. You can do as much as you want. And you need to press a little bit into that. Who is that with? Is it with licensed counselors? Is it with people in training? Is it with an outside organization that has nothing to do with the school and therefore no accountability or management or like quality control from the school? So be careful of promises of unlimited counseling because I would very much doubt it unless you're paying a very big price tag for your school. State funded schools, if they don't have the money, they're very, very understaffed in their mental health departments. So also be asking if when you see a therapist, if it's a consistent therapist, do I get to see the same one for those 10 weeks of counseling that I'm limited to, right? Or is it just who's available at the moment?
That would be what I would be afraid of.
Right. So I think it can be amazing. I've heard of some schools where they have incredible support systems because they've taken this as a priority. So that would be another set of conversations to be had. I'd visit the counseling department at the school and just get the nitty gritty on how counseling is provided. Yeah, for sure.
I like that.
So yeah, that was my next little point of this, A, the shifts in therapy across state lines, and then B, ask the college counseling center the number of sessions. Do you work with licensed counselors if you're a student? And then do you see the same counselor over time? Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Number 6, moving on. Let me know if you want me to pause, Lori. I'm just kind of
I'm loving
plowing
this.
through
I'm
like a
just
quick trip.
I'm just over here just nodding my head, which of course nobody can see, but I'm like, yes, that. And you know what? You're just reinforcing all the things I'm telling parents now. So I'm like, yes, I've got it right.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So number 6, this is a general one, and it's students start practicing remembering. I don't know what you need to remember. It could be appointments. It could be to call your best friend, text him, do whatever, and ask him about what time you're going to whatever together. But how do you remember stuff? And what I want to encourage students to do is like not keeping it in your head, because neurodivergent brains got a lot going on in there, and they sometimes have a limited shelf space for remembering the little things. And getting practices in line for how to remember is really important. So, the other part of that is parents start practicing not reminding them.
That's what I was
Can
just
you
going to
be
say.
fired? Can you like fire yourself? Can you let your child know in some lower stake instances that will have some pain points that you will not remind them, and you have to stick to it? You can't give them that sideways look. You can't do that body language thing that they know you're reminding them anyway, even though it's not coming out of your mouth. Like, can you actually not? And let them feel the consequences of the thing so they feel a need for a system, right? Because a lot of my students, when I meet with them the very first time, I'm like, okay, we're going to meet next week at this time. And they're like, okay, all excited. Let's do it. And I'm like, and how are you going to remember that? And they look at me like, oh, duh. They literally, almost all of them just touch their head. Like, it's in my head. I got it. I remember important things like this. Oh, thank you. I'm very flattered, but I want this important thing to not exist in your head. Where can it be? It could be on paper. It could be digital. It could be in your phone. It could be on your computer, a calendar, a planner. It could be anywhere except for just in your head. And even better if you have it in multiple places, right? So can you start remembering, students and parents? This is the hardest dang thing. Can you stop it?
I think
Really?
that is very hard to do, especially when you know this is a weak spot of your student, right? Like, and it's become such a habit. Like for 18 years, you've been reminding. So to just shut that off is very hard. But it is so. You're right. It's so important.
Yeah. I
To
mean,
figure
and
it
I
out.
think it would require a setup conversation with your emerging adult to say, look, here's the thing. You're about to have to track a lot of things in college and appointments. I'm going to back out of one category and you have to remember the stuff, and let them have some choice. Is it meds? Is it therapy? Is it, I don't know, it could be so many things that you keep track of as a
Packing
parent.
my lunch, whatever.
This one category, I'm backing out. And I'm going to be really intentional about it. And it's going to be hard for me because this has been my job description for 18 years with you. And I'm quitting. I'm firing myself. So what can you do so that I know my baton pass to you, here you go, baton, is going to be successful, right? Because I want you to have some of this in place for when you go away from me and I'm not there anymore and I don't know when your stuff is, right? So I think having us float above it, let the student choose an arena that they want to start remembering their stuff in, play around with options, and then maybe, figure out an easing off a easing out way of like getting to the point where there's absolutely no more reminders from you and big consequences. For me, it's a $250 late charge for one of my daughters to not let the therapist know 48 hours in advance if we're canceling. And
Oh
I'm
wow.
backed up. I'm not doing it anymore. And she knows she has a job. She could pay it if she absolutely had to, and that would hurt. But she would never, ever forget again. Right? She'd come up with this. She's not gonna be, there's not gonna be twice, right? So that's kind of what I mean, is create a pain point option so that they realize the need for it. All right.
I like that.
Done. Okie dokie. Okay, another one. Number 7, we're getting there. Get a successful wake the self up plan. So, parents, if you are a part of the alarm clock system, you have to be fired. Again, you have to be fired. And so there's some apps out there that are pretty incredible. I don't work for them. I don't need to endorse them, but my daughter is using Alarmy, and it's obnoxious. It's super obnoxious. It does things like makes them scan their barcode on the deodorant in the bathroom, or the alarm is going to get louder and louder until you get out of bed.
I did the one where you had to solve the math problems.
Yes, you have to solve math problems. You have to trace a paragraph that says, it is important that I get out of bed because, like with your finger, you have to trace it. She at one point had tried to record herself yelling at herself to get out of bed. I mean, this is the kind of stuff they need to do though, right? So I do think that one costs you a little bit and it's worth every penny. So they're either
I
going
think that one too has that natural consequence of missing class, being late for class. There are natural consequences that will happen as you start to back off. That to me was one of the hardest ones for me because no one in my house is a morning person. So I have a lot of grace for that.
Yeah.
And because I was a terrible morning person, so I was the alarm clock. And that's scary. But I mean, I was scared to death that first month of school. I'm like, he's never going to go to class. He will never get out of bed. And guess what?
Yeah.
He did. It worked.
Yeah.
So
it's going to be okay. And I think too, just in light of that, ADHD and sleep patterns are really interesting things, right? So some of the deepest sleep does not happen where a neurotypical brain sleep patterns happen. So their deep sleep where they're way under, hard to get up, the wake of death, you've seen it, you have to shake them and they still go back to it, is up against the morning hours. And that's really difficult to deal with. And I think sometimes parents can shame their students for being lazy and you sleep the day away, and you just won't get out of bed. And really their body might be coming from a significantly deeper sleep at that wake up hour than what a neurotypical brain might be. So just like you said, have some grace because people are biologically not morning people. That's a thing. So anyhow, okay, wake yourself up system that is not parent led. Number 8, you update all disability documentation. And Laurie, this would be where you come in. So probably you would have a lot to say, but my basics, and then I'll hush and let you say. Some colleges want it within 3 years. Some don't care. As long as you had it at some point in your life. Some want it within the last year. So you need to find out from Disabilities how recent the accommodation documentation needs to be and what exactly they need to justify accommodations. Get on wait lists with people like Laurie for your neuropsych evaluation updates. Like you're into a college, get on a wait list right now for a counselor and for a psych update. Yeah. So,
and when you really quick, the other thing I have learned over the years, and you know this too, is that when you are looking at colleges and you're looking at their disability services, they're not all called disability services. They might be student access, student support, accommodation services, student accessibility. Like there's all these crazy names, but I promise you, if you Google the University of Arkansas Disability Services, it will come up with whatever name it's called. So just know that every single school has this office. They just may not all be called the same thing, but 100%. As soon as you decide where you're going, find out what their requirements are and get those taken care of before August.
Yeah, agreed. And because you're not going to be the only one doing this, right? So if the parent, this is a United States wide phenomenon, right? And so as soon as you can, getting your appointments made. Other things that are kind of funky is make sure that there's some accommodations for college that are very college specific, for instance, and they're very hard to get. So you would have to have someone like Laurie be specifically stating things like, my child needs housing in a solo space because of sensory issues or, anxiety or whatever it might be. But the universities, depending on where they are, they have very limited. Try Boston on for finding single housing. Like it's not easy. Right. And so, because they don't have the space. So you have to have all kinds of documentation from official people saying specifically this person would benefit from individual housing. right? So that's one of them. The other one is priority registration. And you can imagine that a university would not really necessarily want you to know that that is an accommodation. It is. And it's very justified with folks with ADHD when we're talking about these, quote, not morning people, and also getting ADHD meds on board so that they can go to that 8 a.m. for real. What time do they have to have their meds on board to be fully able to take in the content in organic chemistry at 8 a.m.? Seriously? Like, that's a setup for failure right off the bat without anything else. The content can be difficult, of course, but like the logistics of all of that can be really important. So those are the two big ones, I would say. There's others, but housing, it could even be things like, your child's EF skills in just handling life. Like, where is the laundry? Where maybe there's an eating disorder involved, and any excuse to not eat like the dining halls across campus from my dorm, that could be, and it's a rainy place like Bellingham, Washington. They're not going to have lunch because it's a real good excuse not to, right? So those kind of things, you can get housing that's closer to particular aspects of life that they may in fact need to be near them. Yeah. All right. Do you have anything else on that one, Laurie? Because that's straight up your lane.
No, and I agree. The priority registration to me is the absolute, that's the one that one. And then the other one that is something to think about too is a class substitution. If you have, a comorbidity like dyslexia and you are required to take a foreign language, but your degree is not to speak a foreign language, there's some, and math, there's some course substitutions that can happen too, but it really has to be very specifically stated in your documentation, but it can be done. So know that there are some things out there. I mean, the goal is for you to succeed and to get your adult through college. Let's put everything in place that we can to help them be successful. But no, you're right on it.
Okay. All right. Blasting through the last few. Number 9, call the disability office as soon as you put your money down. And top 3 questions, there's so many, but I'm just going to throw top 3 at you. When can I meet with the staff member to set up accommodations? So let's make this happen. And then questions about the required documentation that will usually be on the website. Read the website first and then have some specific questions about the documentation that they say they require. Some are crystal clear, some are ridiculously not clear. I would maybe say the latter is more true. It's just overwhelming. It's not even that they didn't do a good job stating it. They just have to state so much to a neurodivergent brain online, and it's difficult. So take a look at it before you call. And then do you have any workshops or groups to help with executive function skills or adjustment to college, right? Because sometimes they'll have those built in for freshmen, and sometimes you have to ask to take those.
The other thing too is that when you call to ask about when can I set up an appointment for accommodations, that's the student calling, not the parent. They typically won't talk to the parent. They will, if the student is 18 or older, they're the adult and that's who they're going to want to talk to. So this is one of those opportunities for independence to have your student call. So as soon as you've paid that deposit, you give them the phone number and you stand there and watch them call and ask those 3 questions.
Right. Yeah. And I would have a scaffolded written down little outline because they're going to be scared to death to make this phone call. And please stand in their shoes. This might be the first time they're interacting with their next phase of life, and the very first thing they're admitting is their need. Can you feel that? That's very tender turf. So give them some time. A lot of students, 23%, I don't know how they got this data because it'd be really hard to come by, but it's out there. 23% of the neurodivergent students attending college get accommodations. 23. That's a whole bunch that don't, right? Don't ask for them, say they don't need them, aren't willing to take that adventure. And guess what, parents? You cannot step in. By law, the university will not speak to you. And so this is a real tender spot with students. They want a fresh start and they think that their ADHD, dyslexia, all the things is maybe not going to follow them into the next phase. Because all the other high school garbage isn't going to. They can get rid of the friends that were mean. They can get rid of that trash math teacher. they can get rid of a lot of stuff, but they cannot get rid of their neurodivergence. But that is a journey they have to discover. And you forcing it is going to be a real hard spot. So those conversations are tough, but remember what you're asking them to do. You're asking them to call and say, hi, new place where I'm hoping to belong. I have a lot of needs.
Right.
That's the phone call they're making. And so be careful and just let them have some space, figure out what you need to do as a parent to be gentle and firm at the same time. But man, realize what you're asking. Number 10, this is just learn resources on campus. So learn about here's my top 3: counseling, tutoring, and disability access, which of course, like Laurie said, has all kinds of names. So figure out the name and then figure out what they do. Where is it? Is it far from your dorm, near your dorm? Like, some of them are just buried in these weird places. How do they work? Figure out who your stupid question person's going to be in your experience at college, right? So like, is it your RA? Is it an advisor that's like glued to you through your 4 years? Is it an academic coach? That's a part that we do. Is it an upperclassman, like that you meet at a club or something, like in one of the clubs that they do on campus? So figure out your stupid question people, because you're going to have a lot of really, they're not that stupid, but you're going to feel like they are questions. So that is it. That was a mouthful of 10.
Wow, but those are all so good.
Yeah. And I would say, oh my goodness, don't be overwhelmed. There are people who can support you. There's people like Laurie who know the systems and how they work. There's people like us. There's academic coaches that live and breathe this transition. And so lean into folks that can help you through the transition, because it is overwhelming.
Well, and I feel like maybe you left this, the only one that I would have added that you didn't, yes. And maybe because it's not, you not want to toot your own horn, but I have told parents, every parent I meet with, that if they've got a kiddo going off to college, that they need to start their coaching before they go. And that coach needs to be with them through the transition of that first, from moving into the dorm to like getting their syllabus and setting up their plan for the semester or quarter. I think that is key and so important. And that is that person that can be that dumb question person. Yeah. And kind of be there, who's not mom or dad. And it's not embarrassing to ask you. It might be embarrassing to ask my professor or my roommate, but it won't be embarrassing to ask you. And I just think having that sort of guidepost, through that process is going to be huge for them. And I think that's really just setting them up for the ultimate success. Yeah, for sure. Yes, no, I intentionally leave it out because I don't want this to be some schwarmy little spiel of like, come to me. That's the whole point of this talk. It's not the whole point of the talk. It is overwhelming. You do need your people. And yes, we would be completely honored to step into the process. It is a vulnerable place for everybody, parents and students alike. So, and a very necessary one for neurodivergent students for sure, so that they can figure out and maintain their dignity in this new setting that may not be built for them, right? It's just not. And it's a struggle, but one that they can do with the right supports in place. So, yeah. It's such a fun time. And when you have all the right support in place, you can really enjoy it. You can really experience it. You can really, take it all in and not be so swept up in the overwhelm, right? And that's what that's kind of laying this groundwork for really enjoying this process, because it is so fun. And it's so cool to watch your child kind of grow into that adult, right? Like this is that time. And so if you can plan for it and help them plan for it, everything just happens so much more smoothly and so much more enjoyably.
Yeah, for sure. And I think ultimately, and one of my favorite, like, oops, I didn't know we were doing that part of the jobs is that we as coaches and now I'm careful saying this, but we can take a lot of the stress off of the parent emerging adult relationship, because the parent knows that someone is working with these skills with their student. Now, what I would say is they shouldn't totally just hand it off like we're their babysitters through college. That can't happen, and that's not great. But the real intense, oh my gosh, I have to be the one that helps my student do this. When the very absolute necessary, psychologically, developmentally appropriate job of your student is to be diverging from you. They should be doing that. That's what health is as an 18-year-old. So they don't want help from you. And that is a beautiful, wonderful, appropriate response. But they might really need it still. So find somebody that can do that for them. Yeah.
So if parents have questions for you or would like to get some more information about coaching, about what you do, what's the best way for them to find you?
Yeah, so the best way is our website for sure. It's thresholdcoaches.com, not coaching, just so you know, because that one was taken, darn it, by somebody else. So thresholdcoaches.com. And then there's all kinds of very blatant buttons that are like contact us or get started. The get started buttons, all they do is send you directly to me for a free consultation. And that's built for the student and the parent. And that's very important. It is not for parents only, because I don't want to talk to a parent by themselves, because I'm not working with the parent, I'm working with the student. And our team of coaches is that. So that's a free consultation to find out more. I would say that's your best bet. And I would so love to meet you. We are signing people up for 25-26 school year right now, and building out some support for the summer to get students ready for the leap, like Laurie said, ahead of it. So if you want someone to help you with this list of 10, we're happy to jump into that with you.
I love that. I highly recommend it. I think this could actually make the biggest difference in the success of your student over the next, 4 to 6 years, however long it takes. Mm-hmm. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing these. Awesome. I love it. We're going to do this again. I have a feeling we've got so many other things we could talk about, but this was awesome. Yes. So thank you for being here. If you guys have any questions, first listeners, thanks for joining us today. And if you guys have questions, you can always reach out to me. letstalklearningdisabilities@gmail.com. If you liked this episode and you know somebody who might benefit from it, please feel free to share it. You can like it. You can leave us some comments on any of the platforms that you listen to our podcast on. We would really appreciate it. So thank you guys for being here. Have a great day, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us today. In our show notes, you can find information about today's talk, as well as links to resources and other episodes. If you have questions about today's talk, have ideas for future episodes, or just want to stay connected, you can contact us through Diagnostic Learning Services on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. So, let's keep talking learning disabilities. This podcast is sponsored by eDiagnostic Learning. You can find more information at www.ediagnosticlearning.com.